How are we doing, good people? How are we doing? How are we doing on a Tuesday? It's Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday. Let's do this. All right. So what I wanted to get into is the party that Tiffany Henyard had. Who doesn't like a good, supermayor story? So the party that Tiffany Henyard had, I didn't realize who the artists were. I had no idea. We'll get into it. There were apparently two pretty big names. Well, they were big names at one point in time in their careers, which was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. They got paid some pretty big money. And this is all being paid by the Township of Thornton. And the supermayor had 60, 70 people there to watch two artists that were paid 50 grand. Yeah. One was paid 30K. One was paid 20K. For a 30-minute segment each get a half an hour. Yeah. And this is a township and this is a village of Dolton in the township that is hemorrhaging money. Township of Thornton, not so much. Village of Dolton. So you've just got these optics that are incredible. You're just like, what? We're doing what? How does that work? You're bringing in artists and paying all this money and making it look like a re-election campaign under the guise of, friends of Tiffany Henyard. Some wild stuff. Let's watch a quick video. Here's the video. I also wanted to say, when we ran the thumbnail for this video, the news story at that point in time was Tiffany Henyard's $135,000 party. That has now been downgraded to $85,000. And I'll show you where we've got, yeah. So here, an earlier version of this story incorrectly tabulated the cost of the event. It's only 85 and change now. Oh, I feel so much better. Don't you? No, it's still it's same deal, right? It's misuse of money. It's bad optics. It's it's politics as usual for this gang. But we're going to call them out on it because this is ridiculous.
WGN investigates tonight another week, another party for South Suburban politician Tiffany Henyard. Despite her opponent's efforts to limit her spending, Henyard recently threw a big bash.
As investigative reporter Ben Bradley found, it cost taxpayers more than $100,000.
The self-proclaimed supermayor is also apparently a super fan. She flew in nationally known R&B singer Keke Wyatt to headline the Taste of Thornton Township last month. There were other performers plus daytime events for kids, but given the fury over Tiffany Henyard's spending, we were curious what the event cost. WGN Investigates obtained the bills through open records laws. They show Keke Wyatt was paid $30,000 for a 30-minute performance. Rapper Jay Holiday made $20,000 for a half-hour set. A talent booking agency billed the township another $50,000 for other.
Okay, so it's this 50K right here. That's the number that I think is in play. We're off by 65K, but difference between 135 and 85, right? This is the big portion of it. And this was what I was questioning. Was $50,000 for other performers? I mean, you got some comedians, and the advertisement for this party said some great local artists. And so that's why I didn't realize, I didn't know who Jay Holiday or Keke Wyatt was. I'm not an R&B guy, right? Just not. So let's keep going.
Performers that day. Records show the entire single-day event cost South Suburban taxpayers more than $135,000.
I was flabbergasted. I was pissed off. That's my money. That's the people's money.
That was a flop. It might have been approximately 65 to 70 people there.
All right, 65 or 70 people for $50,000 worth of entertainment in 1 hour in two 30-minute sets. Does that make a lot of sense to you? No, it doesn't make sense to me. Aren't there some actual local bands that would love to get an opportunity that probably would have played for free Yeah, probably. But that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're doing a couple of artists. These artists were both born in 84 and 83, 82 and 84. Tiffany Henyard is born in 83. So this is the genre of music that she grew up with. And this is what she wanted to have at the Township of Thornton, their big event. and so she did.
Out here at Taste of Thornton, yeah, keep raining, but it's still going on. Right now they got the comedians up there.
To be clear, Henyard's predecessor also threw a Taste of Thornton Township event, but not on this scale.
But see, this is all for the babies. This is what they don't show you. They don't show you this side of Tiffany Henyard. The productivity.
She liked to use our tax dollars to promote herself. She have all of these events trying to buy the voters.
After a year's worth of WGN Investigates reporting, detailing first-class travel, meals, and more that's now sparked a federal investigation, trustees in the two governments run by Henyard have tried to stop the spending. Even her former assistant, who's now a township trustee, recently said enough is enough.
I trusted the administration. I trusted the process. And the moment I didn't trust the process, I started asking questions.
Henyard has a habit of claiming to be the boss in one moment, but denying responsibility in others. It recently sparked this reaction.
I do not want a credit card. I do not deal with money. I don't deal with anything.
Tiffany is a narcissist, and she is going to do what she wants to do. I feel like she knows that this is over, but she's going to go down kicking and screaming like an MMA fighter.
That is probably one of the best descriptions I have heard. She's a narcissist, and she's going to go down kicking and screaming, and that's exactly what she's doing. Hey, I might be on my way out, but man, I'm going to go out with a bang. Let's bring in some big name artists. And maybe this was scheduled a long time ago. I mean, you got to book these folks out a long time, give some lead time for their schedules and the township schedules and all that, get it all worked out. But still, with all of the publicity on how much money has been spent, how many millions of dollars Dolton is upside down, and then you're bringing in some big names to have 65 or 70 people. Yeah, it's not a good look. Any which way you look at it, the optics are horrific.
She's just not going to stop until they put cuffs on her.
Most of the contracts for this event were signed before township trustees put spending controls in place. So it's possible the concert and other activities were something of a last hurrah for Tiffany Henyard, at least as far as parties go. The federal investigation continues. Even if she's charged, that won't expel her from office. It would take a conviction to do that, but voters will have their say when she's on the ballot next spring. Ben Bradley, WGN Investigates.
Yeah. How she, yeah, here's the article. It's been, whoops. All right. Let me get us squared away here. We'll go here. So it's just a terrible look. It was a terrible decision. In my opinion, it was a terrible decision to have that kind of party with everything else that's going on with all of this scrutiny on spending. So we've literally had multiple meetings where not only in the township of Thornton, but in the village of Dolton, the townspeople are really trying to rein in the spending. Hey, let's get to one credit card. That seems problematic because they can't operate on one credit card. They're trying to figure out logistics. And then last week, Village of Dolton, they literally canceled the meeting pretty last minute, but apparently that's okay. We had another legal, somebody else's legal opinion, and they said, no, they can cancel it. They can cancel it. So they canceled it because they're trying to create a new budget for the Village of Dolton. And they don't want to get into a situation where they're voting on stuff where they still don't have a clear path forward on what their budget is going to look like. Meanwhile, over in the township of Thornton, which comprises Dolton is a portion of that township. You've got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars being spent on these artists' bouncy house. I don't really have as much a problem with the bouncy house. I think bouncy houses are fine. Kids want to play on those. Hey, that's great. What about some actual skating at the skating rink? This is all held on the skating rink because it's flat, and then they brought in bleachers. But last week's live stream, when I was talking about this event, I was looking through the video. I was looking through this video right here. I'll play it, but I won't play it with any audio, and you can just have that going on. There was... There was just all kinds of things that I was seeing that I'm like, that's expensive. You brought in bleachers. Okay. You've got the truck. You got a truck with a lift. You've got the, just everything to move the food around. And then there was this big discrepancy with who paid for the food. Tiffany Henyard apparently paid for the food. Man, I can't live stream with her just doing her thing right there, right? You just, it's difficult knowing that she's just saying a bunch of stuff that doesn't really make any sense. And she's just pushing her own position super hard. What I remember looking at from this event, and probably nothing about any of this was illegal, from the standpoint of money being spent from misappropriated funds. I don't believe that was the case. The only case that I think could be made for that was the food being taken from a food bank and then handing it out at an event that would be looked at as a campaign event. And the reason I say campaign event is because look at how this Facebook, here's the Facebook ad. Here's the Facebook ad. Supervisor Tiffany A. Henyard. I mean, that's all I see, right? That's all I see. And then in little tiny words under here and in italics, and the Thornton Township Board present. So it's all about Tiffany Henyard. It's her promoting herself, which, hey, all right, okay, all right. If that were her only sin, I'd say, okay, so she's really big on self-promotion. I get that, as most politicians are. But the way she's gone about it is in such a way that we're all now questioning all of this spending, and rightfully so, because you've got members of the Dolton community that are like, hey, we got to fire people, and we're going to have to figure out which way is up with this budget, and we're going to have to make some drastic cuts. Meanwhile, on the skating rink that doesn't get used very often in the village of Dolton, we're hosting this concert with Jay Holiday and Keke Wyatt. I looked over here. Let me give you this one. This was what I was kind of thinking. Where was it? Yeah, highlights. Live music from amazing local bands. And so then I thought these two artists were local bands. Like, okay, all right, no big deal. I didn't think there would be a $50,000 fee paid to the cumulative of both of them. I didn't think, that's just nuts. That's just absolutely nuts. Not the fact that they're commanding, 30 and 20 an event. I looked them up. Hey, what would it take to hire them? And that seems to be about the going rate. One of them's a Grammy award winning. I think Jay Holiday is. Again, I don't really know who these folks are. I just know, all right, money was spent and it was a bunch. It was $30K for 1/2 hour pop and it was $20K for another 1/2 hour pop. When you're in a village that is bleeding out millions of dollars and has millions of dollars of checks on hold that haven't been distributed because the budget is so whacked. So that to me is the, yeah, what are we doing here? All right, okay. This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But like I said, and like the WGN said, this party was probably planned a while ago. And is this Tiffany Henyard's last hurrah? Is Tiffany Henyard, going down the road of, hey, things are collapsing around me. So therefore we're just going to throw the party and we're just going to do it anyway. And we'll see where it goes. Kind of feels like that's the direction that this has gone. So will there be a bunch of scrutiny on this? Well, did the Township of Thornton authorize these two artists? Did they know these two artists were coming to their town, to their township, and specifically to the village of? Did they know? I mean, it'd been advertised, but I don't think anybody knew probably how much was being paid. And good on WGN for putting together a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request to figure out, hey, how much was paid out on this? And you'll notice that this event happened on the 17th of August. So that is a relatively quick turnaround time on the Township of Thornton on their FOIA Act request to WGN. So just some horrific optics as far as how this all looks and how it all goes down. But as far as the village of Dolton is, used to seeing this stuff, I think this is pretty normal. This is how they got in the financial position that they're in now. So just some crazy stuff going on. And you're left thinking, you still went through with that. Huh. All right. I mean, if you had anybody that was really looking after your campaign, because she is actively running for office again. She is actively running for office. Who knows how long the FBI probe will take that's in place? Who knows how long that will take? We don't know. And like we're saying, it's going to take a conviction to get her out of office. That could be forever. That could be way down the road, because right at this point in time, there are no charges on Tiffany Henyard, even though she has a, criminal defense attorney on the payroll at the meetings who is telling us one thing and reality is another. He's trying to do the magic spin for Tiffany Henyard, keep her in office, whatever it is, whatever their cumulative goal is. I don't really know. It's because we're all just watching this going, huh, that's so strange. And to only have 65 or 70 people show up. Okay, so maybe it's 100. Maybe it's more than what the lady said it was. But it kind of didn't seem that way. When we're watching video over here, we watched a lot of that live stream video. Let's see if we can kind of get to a point where we look at, right in here. We at one point in time, we were looking at the line that was queued up to get the food while Tiffany, here we go. I mean, it doesn't seem like you've got thousands of people in this area just running around. That wasn't the feeling I got, but it was earlier in the day and these events were later at night. Now, there were a few places where I saw that, hey, this event is going on. There were a few places where that had happened, but for the most part, the paid talent, the $50,000 worth of paid talent wasn't really spread around. Hey, we've got this artist coming. It wasn't a huge push on that. And I think that was all right, you can have the event, but here's the dealio. You can't just go babbling about how much money you spent on bringing these artists in, because that's a terrible look. You can't even talk about who the artists are. Really, there wasn't much promotion on who she was bringing in. So it's my thought that she probably did that before a lot of this went down as far as organizing this party and then paying out to these individuals, because these individuals wouldn't be showing up unless they've been prepaid. I don't believe that's, I kind of did a brief look through what the requirements are, and they're not going to roll in, do a party, and then expect to get paid afterwards. I don't believe that's the case. And further clarifying that was the WGN request. And if they wouldn't have paid that amount of money, then you wouldn't have it on a Freedom of Information Act request, right? It just wouldn't be there. It'd be another outstanding bill. Put in that stack of $6.1 million bills in Village of Dolton. Although this, got to keep in mind, this is Township of Thornton. This is a Township of Thornton event. And Township of Thornton is not bankrupt. They've had financial mismanagement. There's been financial money taken from here, moved over here. We know that has gone on. How much of that? We're not really certain, because we don't have a full set of books to work with. We don't have anybody that's gone through all these numbers and really crunched them and given us a report. We had Mayor Lori Lightfoot's, her report, and that just kind of indicated, hey, there's some really big problems here, but we don't have the actual specifics because we don't have a set of books that we're dealing with that kind of indicate where we're going, what's happening, and what the deal is. So Tiffany Henyard's party goes on despite trustees' efforts to stop it. This was also an opportunity, I think, for the trustees to say, hey, we didn't want to pay for these artists to come in. We didn't want to pay for comedians. We didn't want to pay for all this stuff. But they were kind of overshadowed by the fact this is just happening. We're going to do this. Boom. We're making this happen. And the major emphasis on this one was that the food boxes from the township were given away to attendees, and the event was held at a Dolton skating rink Henyard built, but a rink that critics say is rarely used. It's only been used a handful of times. That's the aerial view of the skating rink where all this took place. Now, they did have to pay for bleachers, and they had to pay for, a bunch of other stuff to get this concert ready, even though you had a concert with like 65 or 70 people. I mean, just a massive, massive, misuse of money. That's what I would call it. And that's what some of the other residents called it, was just, hey, you shouldn't be doing that because you're not in a position to just be frittering away money. But the supermayor, being the individual that she is, thought that, hey, we're just going to keep on moving forward. And she basically ran it. She did twofold things in this event. And she ran damage control because she was able to just basically state everything that she wanted to say on a live stream and talk to everybody that way. And we covered that live stream on my last live stream on this channel. And she just basically said everything, that was coming across to her off the top of her head. She didn't have to be sitting in one of the meetings. And then the other thing that she was able to do is, she's able to say that this is an event for the people. This is an event for the people. This is for the kids. Okay, so if it's an event for the kids and you had two pretty big names at one point in time and you paid $50,000, don't you think they'd rather want to have a see like a clown or, I don't know, a ventriloquist or a mime or, they had some of that kind of stuff as well. But all the money that was spent here, unnecessary, in my opinion, unnecessary. And other folks, they kind of went down the same road. The whole issue of the food boxes, that was a big deal. And who paid for the food boxes? Because the food pantry, the entity that puts the food boxes together, they didn't want these boxes being given out at Tiffany Henyard's, what looks like a political promotion event. They're like, no, you can't do that. And the Township of Thornton, they basically said, hey, these are extras that we had. This is extra that they either had in the budget to buy the food or extra that they already had. Now, you've got a community in the village of Dolton where 20% live below the population line. They live below the poverty line. So you've got a lot of folks who, need extra help as they go. I mean, who doesn't want a free turkey or a free ham? That's what they were giving out, as well as a box of food to kind of make that up. And you got some other food in there. So is it a community service event, or is it more of a, promotion for her campaign? Nothing ceases to surprise me anymore. Here's another article. This is from the Illinois Leaks, Edgar County Watchdogs. They've had some good stuff. Thornton Township funds equipment used for supervisor's election campaign. Let's see if I can get this into a spot here. Yeah, sorry. All right, that's what we're going to run it with. Last Sunday, the Thornton Township supervisor used Village of Dolton property and Thornton Township funds, equipment, personnel, and food bank to support her Friends of Tiffany Henyard campaign in her bid for re-election as township supervisor. Nothing more than the illegal use of public funds, property, or credit for campaign and electioneering purposes. That's what this entity is saying that this was. And when I looked at it, I'm like, that's probably about right. It cannot be tolerated at any level and needs to be prosecuted. Leading up to and after the Friends of Tiffany Henyard campaign event, they used Thornton Township's webpage to advertise for this campaign event. Yep, that was the webpage I showed you earlier. That was this bad boy. Okay. And then they used Thornton Township's Facebook page to advertise. I'm not as worried about that, but all of these things do is point to the fact that Tiffany Henyard was running a personal campaign on not only the township, on their social media pages, but also using their money to foot these bills. Because guarantee you, Tiffany Henyard did not fork out $50,000 for 2 artists for 1 hour of music. Didn't happen. That's a hard no-go. They used Thornton Township's vehicles, equipments, tents, employees, and food bank supplies for this campaign event. They held the campaign at the skate park. All right. The verdict is still out on who paid for all the bouncy houses and other entertainment for the children at this campaign event, but we suspect the township or village paid for it with credit cards or will be asked to pay for it at a later date. And they were, and that came up at the WGN FOIA request, right? We urge the township board to calculate the financial damages and formally demand Henyard immediately reimburse the township for all of it, and then, acting as the township board, file a criminal complaint with the Cook County Sheriff and Cook County State's Attorney demanding action. Oh, yeah. I think those are things that folks in Village of Dolton, they want to do. But they need to come up with, hey, some actual hard cases of where Tiffany Henyard has stepped over the line and where there are, there's justification for filing a criminal complaint. Something that's actually, no question, this was the financial mismanagement. This was stealing, whatever it is, however you want to call for it. Because a lot of what we're seeing is bad judgment and bad ethics, but probably not illegal. Right? Probably not illegal. Overspending? Yes. Was it negligent? Yeah. Was it a bad call? Yeah. Was it straight up illegal? That's where we start to get into questions and we're like, okay, all right, going to let them work that out in the court system. And that's what the FBI is investigating right now, right? They are looking at the hardcore reality of, what have we got going on here? Photos from some of the winnings from bingo. Okay, so there's some questions on, I got the right thing. Yeah, these are photos. Yeah. Here's the one. Big screen TVs. They're giving away a bunch of big screen TVs. They look like they're from Costco, right? Bunch of big screen TVs. And you're not supposed to, I believe, give out prizes from a cumulative session of bingo in excess of $10. Well, you got a lot of stuff that was given out, and that's one of the other big things that's been talked about is that with the credit cards, if you take away the credit cards, how are you going to get the prizes for big bingo? That was one of the main considerations is what happens to big bingo, because big bingo is apparently a pretty big deal in this community, and I don't have a problem with big bingo. But if you're taking thousands and thousands of dollars out of the taxpayers' coffers to pay for big bingo, you're kind of like, okay, all right, if we were in a financial position to have all this make sense. And this is Township of Thornton again. So they don't have the financial issues that Village of Dolton has. But what you've got going on is, hey, it's not cool either which way you do this, how you end up with having to, basically face the fact that there's a bunch of financial mismanagement going on. It's happening. Dolton Mayor's extravagant party leaves residents with a sour taste. This is basically a summary of the video that we watched. But what I love to see was that was a flop, said for a former Dolton trustee, Valeria Stubbs, who went to see the spectacle for herself. WGN Investigates filed a request under the FOIA Act, $30K for 30 minutes, $20K for 30 minutes, and then $6,600 to rent inflatable bounce houses. $6,600 for bouncy houses. I mean, I know they're expensive, but is this really a community where you should be forking out that kind of money if you've got a massive budget deficit? That's the consideration, right? You could probably scale it down, and $6,600, and you had what, a couple hundred people throughout the day come. That's like what you should be, spending on like a full-on fair event, right? With thousands of people coming. Other costs billed to township taxpayers included everything from comedians to a sound system, staff to equipment, and bring the total to at least $85,769. So down from $135 to just over $85. Don't you feel better if you're in Dolton? Don't you feel better? No, because we go back to that was a flop. Tiffany Henyard doesn't care. It was good PR for her. She got her word out there in the midst of all this chaos, in the midst of all this confusion. She was able to just go out and say her thing and point at all the good things she's doing and basically ignore all of the criticism. But now we're criticizing again because way more money was spent than should probably be spent when you've got a situation where you've got one of the entities that she is, in leadership of, the mayor of Village of Dolton, is not doing financially well. And you're spending $6,600 on the bouncy house. I know you got to have some events for kids, but if you were reasonable, you would scale that down. And maybe you do just the food give out and you do some local entertainers. I'm sure somebody in the community knows how to juggle, right? Get that person up on stage. There's got to be plenty of people that want to entertain, that are good entertainers in Dolton and in the township of Thornton that aren't going to charge you $30,000. But those people wouldn't be, the music that the supermayor grew up on. And that to me is kind of what it looks like this was a, hey, I can get them for $30,000. I love her. I love Jay Holiday. And so she wrote a check or whatever it was, or got the credit card out before the, credit card got reeled in, and went ahead and booked it. And here it was. Now we're talking about it after a FOIA request. So the article goes in to talk about Carmen Carlisle. That was her old assistant who's come out and said, hey, I trusted this administration. Now I don't. And it's because of spending like this that I think people are like, what is going on? I mean, we want to have events at the, township of Thornton as well, but maybe not at this level, considering we're having this on the grounds of a village village is facing a multi-million-dollar budget deficit. Doesn't look good. Any which way, whole thing is a huge shenanigan that unfortunately I think the folks in the village of Dolton they're I don't want to say immune to, but they've been so beaten down with bad spending and bad financial management by their leadership that they're just like, okay, yeah, whatever. We got to figure out how to move forward on this. We got to get a budget together. We got to do all this stuff and kind of start getting going again. And that's where they're at. So I think this was a last hurrah, because I don't think the supermayor will be elected again in the next election cycle. I don't think so. I think enough folks I haven't seen any polls or anything, but she has had so much in the way of publicity, very similar to Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who did the investigation on Tiffany Henyard. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she didn't even make it out of her the initial election. She wasn't, you got to be top two, right? She wasn't even out of the primary. She wasn't even out of the gate there. Just didn't, because she had so much bad PR and people were like, this is all your fault. Some of the stuff that they were blaming on Lori Lightfoot, yeah, she needed to own. She needed to own for sure. But a lot of these are policies and a lot of this is spending that has happened in the past, and we're just kind of moving it forward. All the corruption that you see, there are so many corruption stories in Illinois. What is up with the water that the politicians drink, especially in Cook County? What's up with the water that those politicians are drinking that somehow they think that these are, good ideas to be implementing within their village or within their township, So it goes on to say, most of the contracts for the Taste of Thornton Township were signed before trustees put spending controls in place. Any which way, it's still a bad idea. $50K on 2 artists for an hour of music that it doesn't sound like the Township of Thornton, the residents were hip on it. They weren't big on it. And they're like, that's a flop. I mean, when you hear somebody say just straight up, hey, that's a flop, it's when you kind of know, okay, this wasn't the event that they were hoping for. And this is that last comment we heard. Tiffany is a narcissist, said Dolton resident Sherry Brinton. She's going to have to do what she wants. She's going to do whatever she wants to do. I feel like she knows this is over. She's going to go down kicking and screaming like an MMA fighter. It's not going to stop until they put cuffs on her. And how many comments have I seen from you guys? When are they putting cuffs on her? Don't know. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We haven't gotten there yet. But I think people think that we're close. And are we close? Man, I don't know. You would like to think so? Because you would like to think that some of these events are going to come back and bite her in the rear end. But are they cumulative enough, and are they egregious enough? Are they breaking the law? That's what we're going to have to find out. And with the FBI taking a look in, yeah, that doesn't sound good, because if there wasn't anything warranted, I don't think the FBI would be involved, but they are. We're kind of waiting on that to come back around. In the meantime, you've got a township and you've got a village that are in this kind of never land. Hey, she's still leading us, but not to the promised land. We're not really sure where she's leading us to. But I think there is another Township of Thornton meeting tonight. I believe that's correct. Tonight's Tuesday. I'm pretty sure there's another meeting. So that should be exciting, because these meetings, no matter what, they're exciting stuff, because there's always something going on. Somebody's trying to cancel a meeting. Somebody's trying to, scream at somebody else. Somebody's trying to have the come to Jesus moment. There's always, you got an activist running around. You've got angry Dolton residents, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit. So that's part of the reason I'm covering this, because I think the folks in Village of Dolton deserve better. I think folks wherever they are deserve better. And if you've got examples of abuse by politicians, they need to be talked about. And that's what we just did. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you on the next. Until then, we'll talk soon. Bye for now.